Hello, boxing fans around the world. Thank you once again for joining us on another episode of Talking Fight featuring Christian from the Friday night panel. Again, we're going to talk today about boxing at the Olympics coming up this July in Tokyo. And what have you found out for us today, Christian?
Well, a couple things to get through today, Graham. First and foremost, our first story takes us to South Korea today. South Korea has begun administering fast-track COVID-19 vaccines as of today to athletes and coaches, as well as others expected to attend the Tokyo Olympics. The Korean Sport and Olympic Committee said that the first group of about 100 people would receive the first dose at a state-run hospital in Seoul at the start of the country's prioritized vaccine program for its Olympic delegation. Now, they will be given their second shots within the coming weeks. A total of 930 athletes, coaches, and officials, as well as other support staff, will be vaccinated ahead of the Tokyo Games, which is set to open on the 23rd of July. Athletes can receive their vaccines if they have already qualified for the Olympics or if they are currently enrolled in a qualifying tournament. So some athletes may get vaccinated but not attend the games at the end of it all. The sports ministry said in a statement this week that it supports South Korean athletes preparing for the Olympics in hopes that their vaccinations would help to realize their safe as well as successful participation in the games. It said that the athletes and coaches will all be getting the Pfizer vaccine. Officials, support staff, and journalists who are 30 years of age or older will be given the AstraZeneca vaccine, but those younger than 30 are set to receive Pfizer vaccine as well. And this is in line with the country's national vaccine program. Pardon me. South Korea tentatively aims to send somewhere between about 800 to 900 people to the Olympics. 350 of these are going to be athletes and coaches over 27 events. Olympic Committee officials are expected to finalize the Olympic delegation in late June once all the qualifying tournaments are finished up. South Korea's health authorities say that they have inoculated so far about 3 million people, which is about 5.7% of its 52 million person population. The government recently said also that it has secured enough vaccine for 99 million people, or nearly twice the national population, and that it is seeking herd immunity by November. So it sounds to me like the athletes are jumping the queue ahead of some people in order to get their hands on some of these vaccines. However, it does sound like they're not taking these vaccines away from vulnerable groups necessarily. There is enough to go around. They're just getting kind of a boost to the front of the line, is what it sounds like to me. So whichever side of that argument you fall on, but good to know that the Koreans will be vaccinated by the time they get to Tokyo. Taking a look now at international boxing as a whole here, amateur boxing as a whole, the International Boxing Association President Umar Kremlev has said that coming soon, special criteria is to be used to appoint judges for the organization's major events. So the Russian made the claim after a meeting with officials who worked at the Youth World Boxing Championships in Poland just a little earlier this month. Judging controversies was one of the reasons, as you all know, highlighted by the International Olympic Committee when it stripped the AIBA of its Olympic status back in June of 2019. All 30, and also you guys will probably know that all 36 of the boxing referees and judges at Rio 2016 were suspended following suspicious results, including Russian Evgeny Tishenko's unanimous win over Kazakhstan's Vasily Levit in the men's heavyweight final. There's another great example here. Irishman bantamweight Michael Conlon said that he had been robbed of his Olympic dream after losing a unanimous verdict to Vladimir Nikitin, despite dominating against the Russian and causing a wound under his left eye. A fresh investigation, though it should be said, in all fairness, into the Rio judging scandal has already been launched by AIBA this month, with the boxing tournament in Brazil now generally being viewed as a corrupt event. AIBA's referees and judges committee that's who's going to be developing the special criteria for selecting judges, Kremlin has said. And although he didn't elaborate on what those new criteria are going to be, he claimed that the board of directors would not be interfering with the committee and its work. So we'll be seeing some new criteria coming out for judges in the near future. Kremlin was quoted as saying, "Think about boxers as they are the most important people in our sport. Honest judging is the main principle for us in AIBA. Let's cooperate as one big boxing family for a better tomorrow. Then the best boxer should always win." Boxing is the world's greatest sport. Let's develop it together. AIBA should not have any outside influence. We are an independent organization, and we have an independent board of directors, committees, and referees and judges. AIBA has made some changes to its rules following the 2016 controversies. As I'm sure you guys also know, we've reported a little bit about that here as well. Now using a computer system to randomly select judges for bouts, and having 5 judges now score a contest instead of 3, with those scores flashing up at the end of each round as opposed to at the end of the actual bout itself. And now, actually, I should clarify that a little bit when I say the computer. Right now, so judges are being matched. Bouts are being judged by 5 judges, and the computer randomly selects 3 of those scores as the score for that particular bout. So we're not seeing 5 scores. We're still only seeing 3 scores. But whose scores we're going to be seeing, that is chosen randomly by the computer system. And as you also know, judges have about 15 seconds after the end of the round to register that score, so it can be thrown up, and then afterwards, whichever side loses is going to have 15 minutes after the bout in order to contest that. But anyone who's looking for a little bit more in depth on how they're doing the scoring these days, you take a look back a little earlier in the week. We did an episode on that and dove fairly in depth into that. Just yesterday, Graham, we were talking about our friends over in India and a tournament, and is it going to happen at this point in time? What's your prediction?
No.
Ooh, swing and a miss. We are going to have a tournament, Graham. Just not where we thought we were going to have it.
Okay, I thought you meant in New Delhi.
No, tournament's going to. Okay. The 2021 Asian Boxing Championship, originally scheduled to be held in New Delhi in May, has now officially been shifted to Dubai. The Boxing Federation of India releases in a statement late on Wednesday. That decision was made due to travel restrictions that several participating nations have now announced to India due to the sharp increase in COVID-19 cases in the country. Boxing Federation of India President Ajay Singh said, in the wake of international travel restrictions to India, the Boxing Federation of India, in consultation with the Asian Boxing Confederation, that's the ASBC, for those of you keeping track of various acronyms, has decided to conduct the upcoming 2021 edition of the ASBC Asian Elite Men and Women's Boxing Championship in Dubai. The event will now be organized by the Boxing Federation of India in association with UAE Boxing Federation. The BFI, our Boxing Federation in India, just said that it had received a no objection certificate from the Sports Ministry of India to conduct the tournament at Indira Gandhi Sports Complex in New Delhi, but had to eventually make the decision of not hosting the tournament in the national capital due to travel restrictions. Singh continued, "It's unfortunate that we have to shift the venue out of India. We were very keen to host championships in Delhi, but we were left with no other options. Boxers' safety is the most important concern for us, and hence we had to take this decision. We are grateful to the United Arab Emirates for accepting our request and agreeing to co-host on such short notice. We are thankful to all member federations and ASBC for their cooperation." So that's a major tournament, Graham, with hundreds of boxers being shifted across international lines with less than 4 weeks to go before the tournament. Is this a bit of a black eye to the IOC, you think? And the Boxing Task Force after canceling our America's qualifier, saying it's way too close, can't move a national tournament in 4 weeks?
I think you're now agreeing with me that it could have been held in Orlando.
Always Orlando. Again, I think U.S. visas would be harder to come by, but I don't think it would have been hard to find somewhere else in the Americas to hold that. We'll put them all in a field in Saskatchewan. There's nothing there.
That's right.
There's nobody there to give COVID to. We'll get some tents in Saskatchewan. We'll put a nice big ring up in the middle of a wheat field somewhere, and it'll be great. But a bit of a black eye, or
might be a black eye, but I think realistically, these are good decisions being made and good statements being made on behalf of boxers around the world. So everyone's trying to do, I think, whatever they can to be in their best, not in their best interest, but in the boxers' best interests.
So do you think if the AIBA had not been stripped of their IOC accreditation, that we would still be seeing a moved tournament for the Americas? Because that's who's moving this one. This is the AIBA. This is the Zumar Kremlev, since he took over at the beginning of the year. It's making big strides, and that's who's moving this tournament. So do you think he would have been able to pull it off?
Yes.
Is that just, do you think it's determination that he would have done it just because, he's going to go hell or high water to get this done, or do you think it was the right thing to pull it off?
A bit of both. It's a balancing act. I mean, he's in a tough situation. I mean, who would have honestly expected this pandemic to interfere in this way? But I think he's doing the right thing. Let's put it that way. The right decisions, saying the right things, doing the right things on behalf of his organization.
Oh, I should also mention an extra day has been added to that tournament that originally was running from the 21st of May until the 31st. That now runs through June 1st. So I'm not sure if that's an extra, why they've added an extra day, but there is an extra day added to the tournament since the rescheduling or the relocation. Sorry.
That computerization point that you mentioned regarding technology, this Sunday, Talking Fight is sponsoring a little wee seminar featuring our CTO, Rob Gorey, and he'll be online addressing the issue of new technologies that are being implemented on behalf of boxers, not only globally, but also trainers globally, and also boxing gyms, and how technology is being implemented to their benefit. So I just reminded myself, because you reminded me, technology is making a hell of an impact, not only in general, but in boxing. So I wanted to bring that out for those people who are viewing, watching. This Sunday at 2:00 Eastern Daylight Time, we're having Rob Gorey, our CTO, online to answer and address those questions.
I wonder if any of the techies talking about will fall in line with what the champ was talking about earlier in the week. He wanted to see GoPros strapped to every judge for instant replays.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to ask him? I'm going to ask Rob. I'm going to say, is it possible that AI these days can actually monitor punches? Because if that's the point system that determines winners in the amateur level, surely need actual human beings to count punches. Maybe I'm just curious whether.
I think that technology would definitely exist. Absolutely. I mean, I can't imagine that it doesn't already. It's a matter of, are you able to do it in real time? How infallible is it? I think mostly it's going to be the real time when it comes down to that. Because I've also heard concepts, and this is again mostly in amateur boxing, not in the pros. But I've heard concepts like what they use in fencing floated before, where they actually, in fencing, there's an axe for those of you who don't follow fencing as well. If you're not into all the combat sports, there's a sensor in the tip of the épée and in the actual sword that they're using there, and when that comes into contact with part of your opponent's body, it registers that hit. Now there are still judges to register. It'll register a hit, but say, "Oh, that was an illegal hit," or for some types of fencing, you've got hits on the hands do or don't count depending on the different type of fencing that you're doing. But they do have electronic scoring, where they can say, nope, you didn't actually hit, or yes, you did physically come into contact with the approved strike zone on the body. So I've heard something like that floated before, because our amateur fighters, they are wearing vests. So can't some kind of technology that's not big and bulky be woven into that vest to say, no, that was an impact, on the headgear as well. No, that was an impact, and score that way.
Without doubt, it must exist at this level. There is a company in America that creates mouth guards that have a data chip inside these mouth guards that determine the force of the blow to the chin, for example. So I'm not so sure what they do with that data at the moment. As in, holy crap, man! You took 15 shots to the chin. Are you okay? Should we?
Well, so yeah, we now know that what your limit is before you hit the mat. That's perfect. We now know how hard you can get hit before you drop. That kind of statistical data, though, that would definitely go into. They'll be using that sort of thing for concussion research and things like that. Long-term effects on the body for doing any sport. Football
Yeah.
players ruin their knees, things like that. But they'll be using that for not only to make our sport better, but hopefully to make it safer at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And without a doubt that young chap from Jordan who passed away, unfortunately, but he is certainly making an impact. I mean, there's a lot of talk on all the various chat rooms and Facebook pages, an awful lot of chat about health and safety concerns with respect to young boxers, especially.
We're going to be seeing a lot of negative press around the Rashid El-Swaisat over the next little while, and again, it underscores that it is a dangerous sport. At the end of the day, this is a contact sport. But we're coming from Canada right now. I played hockey for 15 years. It's where I played hockey. I played American football in high school and things like that. So it's we're contact sports are very much a part of our society still, and they are inherently come with a certain amount of risk. It's a matter of balancing the risk with rational thought. And what can we rationally do to make this as safe as possible without turning this into a pillow fight at the end of the day is what it comes down to. But the simple fact that El-Swaisat, when he went down and didn't get up, it was in the ring. If this had happened in his hotel 3 days after the tournament, they would be seeing people draw parallels to it and things like that. But we're going to be seeing a lot more. I was recovering from surgery at the time. That's why I didn't play rugby when the rugby season came around, Carl. Okay. But because it was in the ring, going to the third round of his bout when he went down, and that's when it says something is seriously wrong here. It had to take him to hospital, obviously resulting in emergency surgery that sadly he did not recover from. But the fact that his injury happened in the ring, you're going to be, you're going to see people who are anti-boxing wield that like Thor's hammer for like the next 6 months. You're going to hear nothing but that. And it's unfortunate and it's sad. But if it makes people stop and kind of take stock of how we're doing things, and it's not always a bad thing to review, because they may review and say, hey, we are doing everything that we can do in the current climate to keep us as safe as possible. And this was an outlier. This was an accident. This was maybe it had some underlying effects or some an underlying reason for it as well in combination with the boxing bout. I don't know, because I haven't seen any medical reports on what happened after the fact. But anyone who is on the negative side of this, like I said, is going to wield this like a hammer for the next 6 months. And you just kind of have to, prepare for that.
Without a doubt. I was just simply mentioning that there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of ramifications will come out of this for sure, in a positive, I think, way.
Which, if nothing else, it's going to force the as a sport to stop and take stock, especially when we're talking about our youth competitors and the under 18 competitors out there. It's going to help us take stock and hopefully find a way to keep this as safe as possible.
Yep. That's why we wear seatbelts in our cars. Okay. Whereas,
and Carl over at Lost Bell makes a good point here, saying that we're seeing the increased number of draws versus knockouts and TKOs shows that they're taking this a little bit more seriously that shows to me that they're taking it more seriously from a refereeing and a judging standpoint, because that's where a lot of these safety protocols come into play, because it is hard to make punching someone in the face safe. So I think that, with the changes to judging, refereeing and stuff like that, being more involved, a lot of the points that Jen Huggins made the other day is going to be, it goes a long way to making it a lot safer. And I think that's the kind of thing that we're going to see new announcements coming from AIBA once they put their new criteria in for choosing judges.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks very much, Christian. Appreciate your time today. Appreciate your research and your updates. And thanks very much for our good viewership, for chiming in and keeping us informed as to what's happening elsewhere in the world. And we hope that Mike has a lot of fun on your show. That's for sure.
There we go.
keep tomorrow
we're going to be taking a look at the updated playbook for athletes. So that has been published now. That came out a little earlier today. So we do have the new updated playbook, COVID-19 playbook for athletes headed to Tokyo. So we're going to be taking a look at. We're not going to go through the whole thing point by point, but we are going to be taking a look at the major changes that have been made since the last edition.
Yeah, excellent. I saw there was a big announcement, a big co-organizational announcement made. So yes, all good. What's today? Thursday. So we'll see you tomorrow, not only for the nooner, but also the Friday night panel.
2:00 tomorrow.
Correct. I always do that.
Noon's Fridays at noon is the female fist. That's what I'll be watching.
Right on. Thanks.
I mean, I'll still be on the couch here. I'll still be right where I am now. Only I'll be watching her show this time. So we'll talk tomorrow.
Right. Thank you.